What is going on, guys? Happy Tuesday. Bobby Fi here. We have power. We have some sunlight. Man, it was crazy. I would encourage anybody who wasn't a part of it to go check out some of the video because this doesn't happen in Santa Barbara. It's pretty nuts. Anyway, everybody's safe now, so we're feeling good. Onto a fun little Tuesday slate. Well, it would be more fun if we didn't have just so much value to sift through. So I'll just say what my plan is to do with that. I'm going to play one of Biyombo or Lawndale, and I think I'm a little bit higher on Lawndale than I am Biyombo. But I'll have both, and I will be playing one of those two with Orlando Robinson in a huge portion of my lineups. Where I'm not, I will be playing Joel Embiid at center or Nurkic at center. I really think that just with the center value, it's really hard not to just get way overweight on all three of those guys. And then you could filter in some Nurkic, some long shot Nerlens Noel, which I think is like the sneaky play that is something I might try to do just because the Detroit situation, they're so slim up there. Yeah, I know he played only 13 minutes in his last game, and I know he hasn't played more than 18 this season, but Dedmon hasn't played more than 16. So there you have that. So I think that is a big decision of what you're going to do with your value. And I'm taking more of it from the Suns front court than I am the back court. I think it's fine to play Dwayne Washington. I'll get to some of him. He is not a priority for me right now. The priority is basically 2 to 3 Miami minimum. Orlando Robinson being the most obvious one. And then probably 3 is the sweet spot for Miami. I think 2 is you can get away with, but Jimmy Butler is obviously a good spend up, and it allows you to do it within that game. I also think you can run it back with either Giddey or Shea, and that's fine. The same way I think in the Detroit game, you can run it back with Embiid, Maxey, or Harden. I think are all interesting here. But I think that Diallo is the best point projection guy. I like him better on. I think maybe you get lower. And I don't know if you really will get lower ownership on FanDuel even. But I like Saddiq Bey a lot, and I'm trying not to play the guards, but that's unfortunate because no one's playing the guards because of the other stuff we have, like Luka at 12-6, who's the easy spend up when you don't, when you're playing all this value. So that's really where you get into some kind of issues here. So I'm sort of siding more with Bey and Stewart than Diallo, although I'm okay with him, and Hayes. I really like Hayes tonight for what it's worth, but I'm still sort of siding with the front court guys a little bit. And I'm getting to some Alec Burks as well, but I'm not overly enthused about that. Anyway, so yeah, I think you're looking at, probably 1 or 2 from Detroit at least. I'd say maybe even 2. And then if you've got 2 from Detroit and 3 from Miami, where are you spending your money? For me, it is mostly going to be Luka. I like Donovan Mitchell as another spend up. Look, I like Embiid if you only want to use one of those centers. Obviously it's probably Robinson. Maybe one thing you could do that's different is use a different center and play like Highsmith in that lineup, and then use a different center with Embiid than Robinson, because if people play Embiid, they're probably playing Robinson with him, just naturally because of the price thing. I don't think many people are choosing either Lawndale or whether if he starts Biyombo over. You know what I mean? I just think that over Robinson, I just think you're better off taking a shot with, doing something a little bit different, because I do think Embiid will have some ownership and then be really easy to pivot off the natural build. And why not Highsmith outscoring him and then one of Lawndale or Biyombo, preferably Lawndale for me. It's possible. There's a path for it. Anyway, so I am mostly spending up on Luka. I mentioned I like Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, Jimmy Butler is the chalky one I'm spending up on. I'm not really getting to Damian Lillard. I don't have that as much Kawhi as the field. I do have some, but not as much as the field seems to right now at 30% is what I'm looking at. James Harden, I didn't really get to much of today, but I don't mind it. Like I said, I like Milton. I think that, like I said, you could run Shea back with the 4 Miami stack. I think that's totally viable. And then I think you run Siakam out there and basically anyone from Toronto, but Siakam is the one I like probably the most. So I just think that if that game stays reasonably close, he's going to go nuts. And I like that Mitchell's going to be low owned. So at least one of my spend ups is low owned. And I think Nurkic by the end of the day is low owned, but I'm not using that much. I will throw a Nurkic it's going to be nuts. I mean, you throw Nurkic into a lineup with Embiid because one of these 3K guys is going to go off. But I just am tempted to do something a little bit different on this slate that feels very small, even though it's actually pretty big. Jared Allen's another guy no one will play because of the other centers. I'll throw him into one with one of the minimum cost guys. But mostly it's a pretty tight pool tonight and a pretty straightforward one what to do in cash. In a few ways you can get different, in tournaments. Playing Tyrese Maxey is one for me. As I mentioned, I like Luka. Getting some Embiid and non-Robinson lineups in there. Siakam I like a lot. And he's center only eligible. So that's all these guys can't be owned. It's just not possible. I'm going to throw Nerlens Noel in with a Noel will be in one of my lineups. Robinson, and I just am trying to get weird with it in some things that just based on what I think could happen, even if it's maybe giving up a little bit of equity. Anyway, I'm gonna jump on over and see what you guys are talking about. Siakam, I just mentioned that one, so hopefully, Siakam does feel like a really good play. The problem is you're giving up a lot by not playing these value centers. There's basically I don't see a route where none of them get there, right? And I think that Robinson Londale is my favorite of the combinations. Wish we could still use him at forward, but then that's what everybody would do. And maybe what you do is I don't like Highsmith is the easiest bus path for me, but maybe you can try to leave Robinson out of and using one of the other minimum cost guys. It just really gets tricky. But then you never know. Maybe he picks up 2 fouls really quick and it's Dedmon time, and Dedmon's not going to play that many minutes. But I'm not saying play Dedmon. I'm just saying it's kind of interesting to think about. I think Robinson, while I love him, he's getting a little bit nuts on the projections at 33 fantasy points or whatever it is. So. Please hit the like button. Let's get it today, as Rody says. If you guys have any questions or thoughts. So here's Dwayne Washington. I think Dwayne Washington is actually really he's completely a good play. The problem is the ownership is also acting like he's a good play. So I have actually been lower on him. I mean, his shot per minute is legitimately one of the highest in the league. It might be the highest. So I think we have to get some Dwayne Washington exposure, whether you like it or not. Does have point and shooting guard eligibility on DraftKings, only 4,700 on FanDuel too. I think he's in play on both sites. So I am okay with the Dwayne Washington play tonight. I will probably make a note to get a little bit more than I had before the show. I do have a little bit of Mobley to get different, Rich B, so I'm good with that. The field is spending for Luka, I can tell you that. The centers, you just have so many cheap options. I think, it's going to be that. Bridges is not on my list, but it's fine. It's just this is not really who he is. He's had a couple games that are outliers where he does sort of do it, but his projection went down after these guys were announced out. It didn't go up. So just keep that in mind. And could he have a game? Sure. He's got a tough defensive assignment. The more I think about it, Dwayne Washington makes the most sense for me to have a game, but I do think Bridges occasionally will fire one in there. I just not getting to myself. Which center from Miami? Oh, it's the start. It's Orlando Robinson as long as he's starting. And by the way, even if he's not starting, then I would still probably be playing more of him. I think that's just simple as that. That's what I'm doing. I do think we need some starting lineups to make final decisions. Detroit may not start Diallo, which may lower his ownership and get me higher on him because they could end up starting Noel, and that might get people over the field on Noel. So it's kind of an interesting slate. We've got to wait for a few things, but not that many. You know what I mean? Really, it's just starting lineups there, starting lineups for Miami, even though I think it's fairly predictable what they would do, but not necessarily. They might do the weird Haslam starts and plays 5 minutes thing, which would lower the ownership there. I think Miami, Detroit, and Phoenix. I think Detroit is in a good spot as well with their guys out. Even though it's a tough matchup, somebody's going to have to do something. I mean, and they've got the problem is the guards are there. They have Burks, Ivy, Hayes, and Diallo is really more of a guard. But yeah, Miami, Phoenix. I'm getting I have a minimum of 2, but mostly 3 of the Heat. I have a minimum of 1, but often 2 of Detroit. And then you get into the Miami and the Phoenix. What else am I doing if I spend on those guys, and how do you rate them? I think that you go for upside, and Dwayne Washington certainly has that. I think that Londale and Biyombo, but especially Londale, has that. I think Dario Saric is in play on FanDuel especially, but I think he's in play on DraftKings. You just don't need that value as much. just who else are you really locked in on Phoenix? Like Phoenix only has like 2 guys projected to score 30 fantasy points, for example. Where are you spending how much are you leaving on the table if you're playing these guys, if you're going to do the Detroit thing? If you want to just X out Detroit, good luck. I mean, it's possible that works. They do have other bodies, but they also have guys who are going to have to soak up some of this usage. Maybe the answer is getting a little less, maybe making it 1 of Detroit and 3 Miami and then 1 to 2 Suns. I don't know that you need like more than 2 Suns unless you're like stacking somehow or, making the Bridges play or something would be an example of it. I just think the Miami just only has 8 guys, so they're the best value. Other than Siakam would be Scotty Barnes on DraftKings. I don't mind Van Vliet, but I'm not doing any of that, to be honest. Favorite mid-range guy, 4.5 to 6K. I'm assuming DraftKings, unless specified otherwise. Sadly, like a guy I didn't mention much of, even Torrey Craig, I guess would be a guy that's not my favorite. 45 and 6K. Struss at 45, Stewart at 51, Oladipo at 53. Killian Hayes at 57. Give one more. Alec Burks at 49, Walker Kessler 47. Those are the only other ones in my pool. Yeah, it's an old Kareem Wilt thing when Kareem was on the Bucks. It's a special one. Thanks, Adam, for noticing. Yeah, it's just a little bit. I have like a little collection of mini stuff that I've got over here, but nothing special, nothing like crazy special. I mean, that you got the Maury Wills MVP bag, which is real, and then Sandy Koufax baseball, stuff like that. Kind of cool. But yeah, I always like that. I like that old stuff. Game stack is going to be if you want to pick somebody on the other side of Miami, Phoenix, or Detroit for me. Everything else is just how do I stack that game? Like I guess you could do a Luka versus Kawhi stack. That's one little way of getting some version of that. Yeah, I think those are my favorites. Guys, pop in questions. I don't have any more to talk about, so I would love to keep the conversation going. Just need you guys to jump on in and say what you got going on. I don't think if you like Lillard, MJ, go ahead and do it. Lillard is a chalk play. Just doesn't feel right for me at 9,500 where I have other plays. Like I would rather play Mitchell, I think, than Lillard. And especially factoring that Mitchell's going to be significantly lower owned than Lillard, and he's going back to Utah. Those are my reasons for playing Mitchell over Lillard. But my problem with both of them is that these prices, we should be getting bigger games than 40s and 50s. We should have that 60 plus, and obviously we know Mitchell has 70 plus upside. He just scored 100 million the other night. Boy, wouldn't it be cool if he goes for 70 again? Nobody's going to play him. So I do hear you with the Lillard thing. It's just that he's going to be popular, so I sort of shifted it other ways. Luka is not too expensive on this slate. Luka's the easiest play. He's a cash game lock. Cash game. SGA good with a break. Yes, I'm doing a little bit of that MJC, so I can't. Yeah, something like that is good. I think you could do it with 4. I think you could do it with 3. I think that's both good. Embiid is projected to play, to answer Jolly's question. 10K plus. Oh, top 3 players on 10K, over 10K on DK. Good question. Luka is number 1. Embiid is tough, but would be number 2, and Siakam number 3. Embiid and Siakam are tough though because you want to get that exposure to the cheap centers. So I really think like you're playing Robinson with one of those guys if you're doing it, or one of the other 2 for the Suns. But personally, like I am not as high on that as everybody else is. And it's a weird slate with tons of value and there's not many places to spend it. Whatever you think Luka's projection is, like triple it. He's going to be so high owned. But yeah, I have it rated Luka, Embiid, Siakam. Actually, I think it's Luka, Siakam, Embiid. But I think I only have that rating because I'm looking at my combo sheet, and my combo sheet has FanDuel on it. So at FanDuel, I significantly prefer Siakam because he's got forward eligibility and I can play one of these centers. starting to feel really hard not to play Robinson and Butler for me everywhere, just the way my builds are going. Let's see, we don't have anything new. Okay, yeah, those are nonsense. All right. Any weird dart plays for tournaments? Yeah, I'll throw a few weird dart plays out there. Nerlens Noel, not starting. If he somehow ends up starting, he'll be popular, I think. Ish. I don't know if they will. He will be, actually. It'll be in between. Another dart throw. Dwayne Washington is so popular. Oh my god. Let's see, I don't have my dart full-on dart throws here right here. Oh, it's not a dart throw, but I love Saddiq Bey. I really like. Let's see what else we got here. I'm just trying to look at my other players versus my ownership projections. So Bey, Ivy, Killian Hayes are going to be under-owned. I think Terrence Mann and Norman Powell, people have overlooked because of the other value. So there's a couple other ones. Mobley, but he's got forward eligibility, so not going to be really fully a dart throw. Then you've got Jared Allen. That's a dart throwy play. I do really like this Jared Allen in this kind of matchup, but it's hard to get those centers in there. So it's just tricky to work that out. Yeah. So I do think the Nerlens Noel one is interesting. Yeah, MJC. That's exactly what everyone's doing. First guy in outside of Miami. Good question. Luka. Luka, but I don't think I have any lineups without at least one player from the Pistons. Maybe two in every lineup. The Pistons, I mean, man, I don't know who Jared wrote. Like, who matches up with Embiid once Stewart gets into foul trouble, if he does, assuming he does. I feel like they may start Noel here. I really do. I think it would be interesting if they did. It sucks because it would make his ownership go up, but you'd have some more security, and then you'd also have protection for Stewart. So I'd still like both of them a little bit. All right, guys. Anything else? It's a nice slate. I'm trying to think of other creative plays that are going to be unowned. Like I said, that both Siakam and Embiid can't be that high owned, but maybe the way, if you do think they're going to have any ownership, just to play the double spend down centers, but to use maybe more Lawndale. I think that's interesting. And I'll throw Noel in there to a couple. LaMelo Ball is going to be low owned. I still kind of like Mitchell. Maybe that's wrong. I got to maybe rethink that one. Christian Wood is like an interesting, really large field play. And I really like the Maxey thing. Like I think that Maxey's got a chance to have a big game here. Yeah, Kawhi and Luka, it's fine. It's fine. It's mega chalk. I think it's a little too chalky for Kawhi, but I think he's got if he has a big game, yeah, he gets 60. Great. He's popular though. No, Steph is. I wouldn't trust Steph playing more than 27 minutes or so. Now, could he go nuts? Maybe, yeah, of course. But I am not getting to any Steph. You don't play players like that just first coming back. I don't think it just can't work out well. And even his minutes projection tonight of what is it? Let's see. What is his minutes projection of 29? I'll take the under on that. Yeah, Morris has been good against them. For what it's worth, Morris and Zubac have killed the Mavs in the past. Do with that what you will. I don't know if I'm going to do anything with it. It's just interesting to know. Morris and Zubac won me 100K once with these guys sitting one time with them out. I do think Morris is actually not like bad. It's just how do you get him in with all these other values? Like you don't need more value. Like even if he puts 35 up, like it still may not help you. Like unless you get every other piece exactly right, it's just so hard to rate these value-ish plays, and then you include guys like that. It's just, but then again, no one is going to play them. I don't know. Playing a guy who's scored over 30 fantasy points like one time in the last month and a half is not exciting. He hasn't scored 40 this season. You just can't even pay these prices for him. All right. Can always fade Luka to get different. Sure. No problem with that. If you fade Luka to get different. And one other thing you could do is you could double spend up at center. I didn't mention that before as much. I meant you could do the double middling or double spend up, and just nobody is building that way. Nobody's playing Embiid and Siakam together and then using all the other value. So that is a route to go. And as is maybe considering doing the 6,200 Jared Allen and the 6,100 Nurkic. The problem is I'd rather go on the high end because you're trying to then offset everything by just getting a much bigger score, where even if the 3K guys get 30 or 28, you're still in there if you get your 70s, you know? And maybe Highsmith gets the run instead if in that kind of a build. So yeah, there's some different options that I'm still weighing on. So that's where I'm at. Anything else for you guys before I get out of here? I'll be in Discord. I mentioned already Giddey is fine. Not my target, but he's fine. Giddey versus Burks versus Maxey. I have more Maxey. I'm totally fine with Giddey. All right. Anything else before we bounce? Giddey and Robinson. And I am doing something weird and leaving like Dedmon into like a couple of the lottery lineups, but it's not like a play I'm recommending. It's just have some weird double spend down centers. So I'm just getting really weird with some of them. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys as always. I'll be in Discord, and we are going to make a premium Discord pretty soon. So we are not like, because you guys who are members of our site, we really do go back and forth with everybody as much as we possibly can. And we want to do that for people who are members of the actual site. So that's where I'm at. Plumlee did not cross my radar to answer that question. Didn't think about him once. Thank you, Robert, and thank you to all you guys. And thanks on behalf of TrueDFS. We're going to get out of here and let's make some money tonight.